So since this is the final of the ICC Champions Trophy and we are setting it up, we have decided that we step away from the normal and do this differently. Defending champions India have looked the part, barring one game against Sri Lanka. Here is how they got to their second successive ICC Champions Trophy final.
India storming through to a record fourth ICC Champions Trophy final. Going the distance at global tournaments has become norm for the men in blue. And despite a rare blip against Sri Lanka in the group stage, it has been smooth sailing at large for Virat Kohli's side.
We just want to enjoy the finals and we deserve to be there. We played some really good cricket. We're not going to take anything for granted for sure. It doesn't matter whether we win by 9 wickets, we win by 1 wicket. We're just going to go there and try to do the same things again and again. Be boring as a team and hopefully the results will come.
The effectiveness of that boring template has been key to India's run of 6 semi-final appearances at the last 7 ICC events. Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma have looked near untouchable in continuing their love affair with the Champions Trophy. They are the only batsmen with 300 plus runs in this competition. The captain himself has enjoyed the platform and continued his mastery of the chase, being dismissed just once so far in amassing over 250 runs.
The way Rohit and Shikhar batted, it just gave me so much confidence sitting in the change room. You know, these guys just went out and especially Shikhar, I mean, the way he took off was outstanding. I mean, those two guys really, dent the opposition mentally and then you can come in and play your shots.
The big differentiator between this team and other Indian sides of the past, however, is the bowling. It was a rare sight to see India enter a tournament with one of the highest rated bowling attacks. And either side of a tough outing against the Lankans, it has been a clinical effort by Messrs Kumar, Bumrah and company.
After the Sri Lanka game, the length and line has been impeccable. So consistent, bowling close to the batsman, always there with an opportunity to get a wicket, as I mentioned. So even in conditions which are not offering too much, bowling such lines that we can produce, wicket-taking opportunities. So big credit to both of them for, getting us where we stand right now.
A tournament that began with rampant rumours of a rift in the camp could well turn out to be India's most comprehensive display at the world stage. Opponents have been dispatched with the same disdain the captain showed in dispelling the speculation on the eve of the campaign. Victory on Sunday will see India climb to #1 in the ICC ODI rankings. For once, the rating will not be in a position to be questioned. Yash Jha, WION.
Chris Harris, India are the defending champions, and as you said, after the match against Bangladesh, they've played like champions.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they've got such a big advantage in this game for me. A lot of their players, one, vastly experienced, and more importantly, we've seen the record of India and ICC Champions Trophy. They've performed very well. If they've failed, generally they've still got to the semi-final stage, and they've obviously won it, and they've got to the final on a few occasions as well. So for me, India just have that advantage of the experience of being on the big stage or playing in that big match a little bit more than, I guess, the slightly inexperienced Pakistan side has.
But just tell me from a cricketer's perspective, how does this translate when you're heading into a big match? It's the final. Is it because once India know what the situation is, they know how to handle the nerves better? Is that it?
Well, just going in a big occasion like this, especially in an ICC or a world event, it obviously plays on your nerves, and it's the biggest stage you're ever going to be on. I mean, it's not just the crowd that are there, but it's the world is watching. And so even though you try and put that out of your mind, it's still in the back of your mind that this could be the biggest match you ever play. And that adds obviously pressure. As I said, the advantage India have is most of their players have been there before, so they've experienced it, so they will handle it slightly better. The advantage that Pakistan have, as our commentators have said, they've already surpassed what people expected them to do. They've done brilliantly to get to the final. So now, in some ways, they're in a comfortable position. They've got nothing to lose. So this bunch of young, I guess, younger, inexperienced players have got the ability, if you like, to go out and just play and not have any pressure because they're not expected to win. And they could perhaps do what Sri Lanka did to India and just go out with no fear, play aggressively and just have fun on the day, enjoy it and express themselves.
But it's easier said than done, especially when it's an India-Pakistan game, because everything else, the surround sound comes in. to the game as well. But just looking closely at India, and I think what has helped India all through this tournament is the start they've been getting from Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma. Right at the top of the innings, that's that solidity. And here we see, their runs in the ICC Champions Trophy. They have this love affair with the Champions Trophy. In this tournament, 384 runs together. Overall, as that graphic says, 766 runs.
If you look at these numbers alone, forget what the rest of the team does. You'd almost expect with this team, in 2017 alone, they've scored 384 runs at an average stand of 96, which effectively means every time they go out and open the batting, they virtually put on 100 runs. So you'd expect with these numbers alone that this team would be one of the teams that's got in the final. Then you throw in the combination of then Kohli at 3. I mean, it's unbelievable and almost unheard of that your top 3 are in such terrific form all at the same time, all in a world event. I mean, it's just scary. And then obviously you throw in the bowlers to back it up. This is no reason why India are in the final, because of the way these guys have played. And I'd imagine we can't expect anything different in the final. I'm sure Pakistan will be hoping that, if they can get early wickets, they can perhaps get into the middle order. But these two, for me, have been absolutely phenomenal throughout this tournament, as individuals and as a partnership.
Yes, and we've seen that both have contrasting roles. That in one game you saw Rohit Sharma was asked to go and take on the South African bowling. Shikhar Dhawan did that role very well in the game against Bangladesh. And you would look at India in the power play as scoring 40-50, but in that last game they went and scored 64. They counter-attacked. Yeah,
I think if you normally look at this partnership, you'd say Sharma is normally the aggressor, and he normally scores at 100% or 100 strike rate, a runner ball if you like. And Shikhar Dhawan normally takes a little bit more time to get in, and then once he gets past that 10 overs, then watch out. But what we've seen, because they're both in terrific form, it depends whose day it is, who's hitting it slightly better at the start. And we saw in that last game, Shikhar Dhawan's strike rate was incredible. So that's the form that they're in, and it's very, very difficult. So with these guys as a partnership, there's no necessarily an aggressor. It just depends who's having their day, and what the other partner does very well. If they can see the other one's hitting it well, they tend to feed them the strike. So that's what makes them such a dangerous partnership. And to add on top of all of those things, they're left and right-hander.
Yes.
So it makes it extremely difficult for the bowlers at any one stage when they're so good at rotating the strikes, getting those singles. You're bowling a couple of balls to a right-hander, then you've got to adjust and bowl to a left-hander, and that's another reason that these two have been so dynamic.
And what they do very well, and you touched upon that, is that they run very well. India rotate to strike very well. If you see the back of one of these, then you get in Virat Kohli, who is one of the best batsmen in the world, if not the best. And he's, again, a very busy player. We've seen that even if he's not timing it as well as we saw early on in the tournament, he gets those runs and then he's ready for that assault at the end.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say the openers are good runners. I think they are, but I still think they could run a little bit harder. I think what they do have is great communication, and they communicate well and they pick up those ones in the gaps. I still think they could run a little bit harder for those twos, because when we see Kohli come to the crease, every time I've seen him bat, there's just a new energy. He hits it out to the outfield. He generally runs very hard every time, unless he knows it's definitely one. And whenever Kohli comes, there's just this extra urgency you see in the running between the wickets. And I think if there's any weakness between Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan, I think they could just run a little bit harder. But that's been really picky.
Yes, talking about Kohli, we're going to see some phenomenal numbers of Virat Kohli. And that just reminds you why he is world-class. Now, this is his ODI career, 8,000 runs. He got to 8,000 in the last game, the fastest to 8,000 runs. But in ODI wins for India, he's scoring at an average of 74. That's 5,500 runs and more. This man is crucial for India to win. Yeah, well, at the moment, the way he's playing, pretty much the way he's played his whole career, you run out of superlatives to describe his career so far and the way he plays. I mean, a one-day career average at a very important position, batting at 3, sometimes he's been a little bit lower, averaging 54 with 8,000 runs. I think he's the fastest to that mark. And then you throw in, on top of that, and in one day wins for India, he averages 73 with 2,300. He's the kind of a batsman, Chris, who intimidates the opposition just by the way he bats and the way he approaches his batting? He's a little bit like those world-class players that you see, the likes of Tendulkar, the likes of Viv Richards. When they come to the crease, they've got this aura about them. They look as though they're there to mean business and they're going to do their job, and it's going to be very, very difficult for you to remove them. And this guy particularly, Virat Kohli, proves that time and time again. I mean, he's good enough in the first innings, but you see the numbers in the second innings. His numbers when India chase or win games,
he is largely, in recent times, the reason India have won so many games.
And we're going to see those numbers up on our screens, and glad you brought it up, because those numbers are phenomenal. That's almost like Bradman's numbers in winning chases for India. If India are chasing a score, whatever they're chasing, he's got 1500s at an average of 95. And you look at it, this basically says that when India chase, there's just 2 games where Kohli's got 100 and India hasn't won.
I know, it's unbelievable. When he bats in the second innings, which is basically when India are chasing, he averages 66 with 1700s and 26 50s in just 100 games. If you do those numbers, about every second time he goes out to bat, he wins India a game with the bat. And once again, when they actually win, he averages 95, which is pretty much where he ended up in that last game. I think he was 96 not out, so he thought, what's my average? 95, I'll go one better. I think he deserved 100 the other day, but I mean, as I said, you just run out of things to say because he is in such terrific form. He's been such a brilliant player for India, and I mean, he's already ended up being one of India's best, but, you know, perhaps he will end up, there will always be that argument between Tendulkar and Kohli, he'll end up as one of India's best players of all time.
The worry for India, and you've been reflecting on this all through this tournament, is that what happens if, God forbid, Pakistan get early wickets? They have the attack which can take those early wickets. The Indian middle order hasn't been tested, you know. You saw Virat come in and play a blazing innings in that first game against Pakistan. We're going to see the numbers of what the Indian lower order has done. And you get a feeling that because the top order has done so well, they haven't been tested. And that means that in a pressure situation, you never know which way this could go. Virat 83 of 3 innings. MS Dhoni just 1 innings. Kedar Jadhav just 1 innings. Hardik Pandya 2.
Yeah, the absolute key here is it's not so much that these guys aren't capable, because these players in their own right are world-class players, and we know that they've won games for India at batting. The issue that I have is if you look at the number of games, Yuvraj Singh's had a reasonable time at the crease, had 1 man-of-the-match performance, and then a good little 23 not out to take India home. But then you look at Dhoni, who's normally a match winner himself, he's only had 1 bat, Jadhav 1 bat, and Pandya, well, I mean, he's had 2 bats, but one of those he only faced 6 balls, even though he got 20 not
against
out.
Pakistan, yeah.
So, I mean, that is my concern, that India have been so dominant at the top of the order that, you know, cricket is a funny game. You can't continually get runs, although most of those guys can, like Kohli has most of his career, but you'd think sooner or later there's got to be a failure. From India's point of view, it's very important that it's not in the final, because as you rightly said, if Pakistan can get a couple of early wickets and get into this middle order, as I said, it's not because they're capable, because on their day they will win games themselves. It's the pure fact that they haven't played much in England, so they've got no batting under their belt. I'm sure they've done plenty of practice, but there's nothing like being out in the middle and getting used to those English conditions. So if they get early wickets, I give Pakistan a slim chance of competing in this final.
Yes, we just hope that that extended run of form should extend to 1 more match, and whatever happens, happens against West Indies. But just quickly touch upon the Indian bowlers as well. They haven't run through sides like you would expect some bowlers to take 6 wickets in a match, but they've done the job, and that's crucial. They've done the job, and whenever Virat Kohli has turned to them, barring that 1 match against Sri Lanka, they have always delivered. Yeah,
they've been absolute. Look, they've just done what's been required, but the batters have batted so well, and I think the bowlers, as you said, they haven't run through sides, but they haven't needed to either. What they've done superbly for me has been so accurate. They've bowled to the plans, so that's why Virat Kohli's so happy. They've obviously got pre-match plans on when they're going to bowl to each batsman. They're going to set fields, and I think especially at the top, what Kumar and that man on screen, Bumrah, have done brilliantly, has bowled to their fields, and that's why I think Kohli's so happy.
And one more thing, Chris, just to interrupt you, they've managed to strangle the opposition even when the game seems to be going out of hand.
Oh, exactly. And when the opposition have had to come in and be aggressive and try to create a strike rate, these two have been exceptional at the top of the order and not allowed them to do that. They haven't necessarily picked up a lot of wickets. I think Kumara's winning the wicket tally with 6,
yes,
which isn't a lot when you consider he's played 4 games in English conditions, but their economy rates, yes, Bumrah and Kumar, are absolutely fantastic. And what also has backed them up really well, except for that 1 game, is Jadeja as well, the left-arm spinner. He's come on reasonably early, and in the last 2 games, he's bowled 10 overs on the trot. But mark my words, Pakistan will be aware of that, and they'll think one of our jobs, because he's such a key for India in their middle order, they'll say, we've got to try and disrupt them, do something different, and make sure that he doesn't bowl 10 overs on the trot. So I think we'll see Pakistan go after the left-arm spin of Jadeja.